Do you think I look part Japanese? Some people say they can see it, some people don't. Growing up, I got a lot of speculation about my ethnicity. I've always gotten that question, what are you? There's always been a big mystery when people look at me, especially growing up in New Jersey. They would get this look on their face like, what are you? You know, and I'd say half Italian, and they'd nod. And I'd say a little Irish, and they'd nod. And they'd be waiting for some other answer. And then I'd say, oh, and maybe sort of a hodgepodge of like Scotch Irish, and there might be a little bit of Native American in there. And that's when they would go, that's it, that's it. So the Native American was the sort of question mark. It sort of answered for them whatever this big mystery was about what they were seeing in me. But I came to find very late in life that it was in fact not Native American. It was Asian, specifically Japanese. And I did a video about that. I'll put a card here. I took the 23andMe test several years ago, and it simply gave an answer to a very big mystery and a very big question that we had always had in my family, which was that there were some physical traits running through us. I have two siblings, specifically me and my older brother would get a lot of people asking, what are you? And sometimes flat out saying, are you part Asian? My sister took after more of the Italian side. And you know, my mom, which is where this mysterious Asian part comes from, pretty much went her entire life being half Japanese and not knowing it, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but her too, you know, she was born in 1936, and you know, so she was sort of a young woman in the 1950s. And when she was dating my dad, she would go, he was a musician, so she would like go hang out at the clubs where he was playing. And she had this friend who would accompany her. And at a certain point, the woman said, wait, you're not Eurasian? Like that, I guess that was the word they used back then. So the woman just automatically assumed she was, and you know, and then my mother was like, no, what are you talking about? You know, but as it turns out, all of this speculation and all of these random strangers asking us, are you part Asian, turned out to be right. So how the hell did this happen? Well, we all know how babies are made, but people will say, how is this possible? You know, and that question comes with a lot of assumptions about normalcy and about, you know, the typical sort of family upbringing that people have. And, you know, my mother was in and out of foster homes. So her mother had a very, very difficult life. She was in and out of mental institutions. It was very unstable. My mother didn't really know her dad. She, you know, she had somebody who was her father on her birth certificate. But clearly, at some point in the fall of 1935, my Irish immigrant grandmother, Bridie, somehow found a Japanese man in 1935 New York City and, you know, had a little romance with him, which resulted in my mother and us. And it's a really funny thing. Like, ever since I found that out, I've really been hoping to find relatives on 23andMe. I had my mom take the Ancestry test just to make sure the math added up with totally two separate companies, and it did. The math totally added up. So she's on Ancestry, and I'm gonna go ahead and take as many more tests as I can just to also sort of double check that math and, you know, increase the possibility that maybe I can find a relative with that Asian ancestry and actually solve this question of who my grandfather was. So I'm making this video as a follow-up to my DNA video, but also to introduce what I'm hoping will be a new sort of series of videos where I just, you know, every week try to do something to find out who this person could have possibly been. And it might be a totally fruitless search. There's a lot of obstacles in my way. I have no names, right? We have no idea who this person was. We have no idea what the situation was. My grandmother passed away in 1988, so that secret died with her. But there are some little things that I've never really investigated that maybe would give me a little bit more information towards who this man was. So I think it might be interesting to, in each of these YouTube videos, try to sort of uncover a new piece of information just to see if I can get any closer to finding out the mystery of this. I was thinking of calling this, tell me what you think. I'm laughing because it's a ridiculous name. Secret Asian Man. Yes, like the song Secret Agent Man, because that's who he was. He's some secret Asian man. I have no idea, but my grandfather, had I met him, had I had that opportunity, would have been Japanese, and presumably at that time period from Japan. Now, it's also very possible, just because of the circumstances of New York City in the 1930s, that he was not, I mean, he could have been a citizen, he could have been living here, but it's very possible he was maybe just visiting and went back to Japan, and there's no one here in the States with that Asian ancestry. So my thoughts have been that I would try to find a Japanese equivalent to 23andMe or Family Tree, but what I'm running up against there is those companies don't tend to share who your relatives are or who you're related to. And, I think that the culture of Japan is very sort of private about family history. So that's going to be a challenge, because chances are, if there's some Japanese family, over there in Japan, it would very well be quite shameful that there's some illegitimate, half American child out here in the States, and uncover a big sort of family secret. So people may not want that information. So basically I have, like I said, a lot of obstacles, but I still thought it might be interesting to just sort of chronicle my my journey here and my attempt to try to find out who my grandfather was. I would love to go to Japan one day, and I would love to have at least some information, like I said, about who this person was. Please comment below if you have any ideas, if you yourself have experienced DNA mysteries and you've been able to uncover them. If you know anything about Asian ancestry or DNA testing, please let me know. But thanks so much for watching. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos, hopefully uncovering the mystery of who my grandfather was.